Wednesday, June the 24th, 1981, was a day like any other in the village of Medjugorje in Yugoslavia. The hill called Podbrdo, rocky and desolate, silently stood watch over the tiny village. Beyond Medjugorje to the west lay the fields which provided the villagers with their livelihood. The traditional crops of wheat and grapes, now interspersed with fields of tobacco, were being worked by women in long aprons, men in dark shirts, and children who would, in due time, inherit not only the land, but the way of life. Beyond the fields rose the church of St. James, where most of the villagers would go to offer thanks to God at Sunday Mass, its spires tall and white and dominating the landscape. To the south rose Križevac, the mountain of the cross. Atop Križevac stood the 35-foot, 14-ton cross, built by the inhabitants of the valley in 1933 to commemorate the 1900th anniversary of the crucifixion of Jesus, and to consecrate their land below and the fruits of their labor to God. At the foot of Križevac rested the village of Medjugorje. Beyond Medjugorje, and proceeding in a ring around St. James's Church, were the other villages of the area, Miletina, Vionica, and Surmanci. A small river wound its way from the south through the valley, past the church and beyond. The long plain stretched northward, squared off with fields and vineyards, and dotted with villages and towns, until it reached the foothills of the snow-capped Dinaritz Mountains. The villagers had labored in the summer heat since early morning. Now, as the sun began its retreat towards the distant mountains in the west, clouds covered the valley and a soft, gentle rain fell, cooling the villages and making Medjugorje seem even more restful, even more peaceful. The smells of supper cooking began to rise from village houses, calling the workers home for the quiet of the evening. The only sounds were of the sheep and the little bells around their necks as they grazed in the fields, the mooing of a cow, the occasional bark of a dog, the men putting away their tools, and the ever-so-gentle rain. But what was about to happen in this peaceful setting would change the world. It was then, in the cool of the evening, that Ivanka Ivankovic, a pretty girl of 15, walked across the one narrow road which runs through Medjugorje to visit Mirjana Dragicevic. Mirjana said to her grandmother, "Ivanka and I are going for a walk with Vitska. We'll be back in a while." Ivanka and Mirjana stopped by to get their friend Vitska Ivankovic, who had planned to walk with them. Zlata, Vitska's mother, told them that Vitska had arrived home that afternoon from an exam in the summer school and was taking a nap. Mirjana wrote a note telling Vitska that she and Ivanka had started their walk and telling her where to meet them later. She gave the note to Zlata, who said she would deliver it as soon as Vitska awoke. The two walked hurriedly down the road and beyond the village. They had planned to walk well past Podbrdo towards Medjugorje. Suddenly, Ivanka stopped. "Come on," Mirjana said. "We're barely out of the village. We must go further. Come, at least round the bend there." But Ivanka stood motionless, gazing up the mountain. Mirjana, who had never broken stride, turned back to look at Ivanka. "Ivanka, come on, let's hurry." But what Ivanka saw on that rocky hillside was beyond all telling. For she saw the figure of a lady made of light, standing on a cloud. She was overcome by the awe of the vision and could barely speak.
"Mirjana, look! Mirjana, look! It's the Madonna! It's the Gospa!"
"Ivanka, come along. It's getting late. Let's go. Let's go just around that bend."
"But Mirjana, look! It's the Gospa!"
"What are you talking about? That type of thing doesn't really happen. And why would the Gospa come to visit us anyway? Come."
Mirjana waved her hand but never looked up the hill in the direction in which Ivanka pointed. Ivanka took her eyes from the vision and ran to catch Mirjana, who was far down the road. The two girls walked a little further towards the edge of the village when they saw a young friend standing in the doorway of a house. Milka Pavlovich was on her way to bring home her family's sheep when she saw Ivanka and Mirjana walking toward her.
Mirjana, Ivanka, I'm glad you're here. I'm going out to get the sheep. Come with me and help me. Let's go to get Vitska. But we can manage the sheep, just the three of us. No, let's get Vitska. You don't understand.
Ivanka thinks she saw a vision of the Virgin Mary on the road.
No, she was up on the hill. What?
So she's upset.
You saw a vision? Yes, she was...
That's ridiculous. I told her
What
it was
did she
ridiculous.
look like? What? What did she look like? She was up on the hill and she looked like the Mother of God. Where on the hill? Let's go look. Let's get Vitska first. Let's go see if we can see the Gospa. Mirjana, did you see her?
No, I didn't. I didn't even look up there.
Let's go.
Come, Ivanka, let's go and help Milka with the sheep. Then we'll see if we can see the Mother of God. When Vitska wakes up, she will find us.
The three girls went along the road where they gathered Milka's sheep and then approached the site of Ivanka's vision.
Look, it's the Gospa. There she is again.
This time, all three girls gazed up the mountain and saw a lady. The lady was standing on a cloud, slightly above the ground. She looked to be about 20 years of age. She wore a long silver garment, and on her head, a flowing white veil. Her face was radiant and beautiful, her lips and cheeks rosy, and her blue eyes of such astonishing beauty they could never be adequately described. From beneath her veil, a wisp of the lady's black hair flowed and curled, and above her head was a crown of 12 stars. In her left arm she held an infant. With her right hand she continually covered and uncovered the baby. She smiled and waved the girls forward to approach her, but they stood motionless on the road, gazing up the hill at the lady. Vitska, who had awakened and received Mirjana's note, had set out to find the girls and was just then approaching them on the road. What she found were her friends staring up the mountain and calling her to look at the lady.
Look here. Look here, Vitska.
Yes, I was on that road when I noticed Ivanka, Mirjana, and little Milka. The three of them were staring at something and seemed to be afraid. They called me to come closer, and I began to hurry towards them, but something seemed strange. When I got closer, they said, "Vitska, look up there. Look at the Virgin." What? What do they mean? Why are they playing? I thought they were looking at some sort of snake and were playing with me, and I didn't like it that they would play and make fun of the Virgin Mary, so I ran away.
Vitska kicked off her slippers and ran as fast as she could towards the hamlet of Chilici. When she reached the houses, she leaned up against a wall out of breath. How could her friends make up stories about the Mother of God, she thought. She didn't know where to go or what to do. She sat down on some rocks and began to weep. Ivan Ivankovich and Ivan Dragitsevich, both teenagers, had been picking apples in the orchard and were carrying a plastic bag full down the road through the village when they spotted their friend Vitska.
Look, there's Vitska.
Vitska, are you all right?
Are you all right? What's wrong?
Here, do you want an apple? Here, look.
No, I don't want any apple. Do you know what just happened?
No.
What happened?
Mirjana, Ivanka, and Milka are in Poprado, and they say that they see the Blessed Mother.
What?
And I'm scared. Will you go with me there? I'm scared. We don't have to see her, but let's go anyway. I won't be scared if you're with me.
Yes, let's go.
Where are they? Vitska, where are they?
This way, towards Biakovici, on the road by the hill.
Vitska headed back to where the three other girls were, more confident now that she had the two Ivans with her. They were men, they could protect her. As she neared the three girls, they once again called her forward and pointed up the hill. This time she approached them and looked. And there, high up the hill, standing beautiful and radiant, was the Mother of God. Vitska asked Ivan Dragitsevich if he saw her, but he gave no reply. She turned to him and noticed that he had dropped the apples and was running away over the fences. The rest stayed and gazed at the beautiful lady, although none would approach her for fear. The lady then disappeared, and the children, excited but confused, went home. That night, the entire village was ablaze with excitement. The news spread quickly to the surrounding villages and throughout the countryside. Some thought the children were lying. Others, especially those who knew them, knew that what the children were saying was true, that they had indeed seen a vision, and that on this feast day of St. John the Baptist, their village had been visited by the Mother of God, the Most Blessed Virgin Mary. The dawn of Thursday, June the 25th, 1981, beckoned the villagers of Bjakovice and Medjugorje into the fields. The mist was rising, and there was tobacco to be picked and the animals to be looked after. The work, as it had for centuries here, began early. And although they were helping with the land and the chores, there was something else on the minds of Ivanka, Mirjana, Milka, and Vicka, and the two boys named Ivan, for they had seen the Madonna, the Gospa, as they called her in Croatian. Ivanka, Mirjana, and Vicka agreed to stop working in the fields early and to go to the same place in the road where they'd seen Our Lady. Vicka had promised two friends, Maria Pavlovich, Milka's sister, who was 16, and Yakov Cholo, who was 10, that she would call them if she saw anything.
We didn't know if we would see Our Lady this day, but we thought if it really is Our Lady, perhaps she will appear again.
The three girls, together with Ivan Dragicevich, left the fields early and headed for the site. Maria and Yakov saw them and started to follow. Ivan Ivankovich had been with them and who had seen Our Lady on the day before, decided that seeing an apparition on a hillside was kids' stuff and that he had more important things to tend to. So he didn't come forward on the second day. Milka Pavlovich, who had also seen the vision on the first day, was given an errand by her mother at the time when the other girls were walking toward Podbordo. She begged her mother to let her go with her friends to see Our Lady, but her mother refused. Maria and Yakov went along just to be near.
In the beginning, I didn't believe Vicka and Milka and Mirjana when they said they saw the Virgin. I made fun of them. I told them that they had probably seen a flying saucer from outer space. But later the next day, I told them that if they went there again, and if they saw her, to call me because I wanted to be there. I didn't have to see her, I told them. I just wanted to be near.
When Ivanka, Mirjana, and Vicka reached Podbordo and looked up the hill, a light shone and the lady appeared. She was in the same place as before and every bit as beautiful. This day, though, she did not have the baby with her. Vicka asked Ivanka and Mirjana to wait until she could go back and get Maria and Yakov. She turned to run away, but found them already coming up the road. When the 6 children, Ivanka, Mirjana, Vicka, Ivan, Maria, and Yakov, had gathered at the bottom of the hill, the lady above waved her hand for them to approach her.
And we all ran forward,
Yes, we ran directly up the hill.
and there was no road there up the hill, just stones and those thorn bushes.
But we ran directly through the thickets.
It was as if there were no stones or bushes. We just ran straight up to where Our Lady was standing.
We ran forward as though something was propelling us. It was beyond description. No one could keep up with us.
A group of about 15 villagers had followed the children to the site below Podbordo that day. All attest to the amazing speed with which the children ran up the mountain. None could keep up as the children were miraculously transported to the place where the Virgin stood. When the 6 visionaries or seers arrived at the lady, little Yakov fell into a thorn bush. Vitska took her eyes from the Virgin and looked at him.
Yes, I thought to myself, little Yakisa, you're not going to get out alive. But he quickly pulled himself straight out, and he kept repeating, I can't die now that I have seen the Virgin, and he had on him no sign that he had fallen into the thorns.
The lady this day was glowing and beautiful. The 6 children dropped to their knees and began to pray the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and the Glory Be. When they had finished praying, the lady spoke to them.
Praised be Jesus. Do not be afraid, my children.
Ivanka's mother had died suddenly about a month before this, in May. But she did not speak of this fact to the lady. She simply asked,
How is my mother?
Ivanka, your mother is well. She is with me. Do not worry about her.
Dear lady, they will not believe us when we go home. They will tell us that we are crazy.
At this, the lady only smiled. She looked over the people who had gathered and said to the children,
Goodbye, my angels. Go in God's peace.
And as the children watched, the Virgin slowly rose and disappeared into the heavens. The next day, the 6 visionaries waited with enthusiasm for the evening visit with their beautiful lady. This day, the seers were followed by over 1,000 people. As they neared the spot on the path where they had first seen the lady, a light shone 3 times to lead them to her. She was much higher up on Podbordo, but once again, the children ran up the hill as though on wings. When they reached her, she disappeared. They knelt and began to pray, and she reappeared. She looked even happier than she had before. She was beautiful and smiling. Vitska had been given a bottle of holy water by her friend Marinko and began to sprinkle it on the lady.
If you are the Virgin from heaven, remain with us. If you are not, depart from us.
The lady smiled. She seemed pleased, and she remained with the children. The children sang and prayed with the Virgin. Ivanka then, once again, asked about her mother.
Does my mother have any message for me?
Yes, Ivanka. She wishes you to obey your grandmother and be good to her because she is old and cannot work.
Dear lady, who are you?
I am the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Why have you come here?
I came here because there are many devout believers here. I have come to convert and reconcile people. All people should be at peace. All should be reconciled.
Dear lady, how should we call you?
I am the Queen of Peace. I have come to tell the world that God exists. He is the fullness of life. And to enjoy this fullness and obtain peace, you must return to God. Give this message to the people.
Dear lady, will you come back again?
Yes, yes, I will come again to the same place. Now, go in God's peace.
The Virgin then rose into the immensity of the heavens. Coming down the hill, the visionaries reached a small pool near a hollow, when Maria suddenly ran to her left as if she had been tossed to the side. There the Virgin appeared to her alone. Behind the Blessed Mother was a large, dark cross. She was very sad, and she spoke to Maria through tears.
Peace, 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 and only peace. Peace must reign between God and man, and also among men.
The other children helped Maria to her feet. They all slowly walked home, and evening descended over the village of Biakovici. Father Jozo Zovko, the pastor of St. James Church in the parish of Medjugorje at that time, was away on a retreat in the northern city of Zagreb. On Saturday morning, June the 27th, 1981, he arrived in Mostar to visit his mother, who had been hospitalized there. As he left the hospital, he saw Dragica Ivankovic, a woman from Medjugorje, who had been injured at work and who had come to Mostar for treatment.
Dragica, kako ste? How are you?
How am I? What? Where have you been?
I was up
You should go to Medjugorje. Father Strenko was all alone there, and the Gospa has appeared there.
What?
Some children from Biakovici have seen and talked with the Blessed Mother of God.
Father Jozo immediately went home to Medjugorje. When he arrived, the children were nowhere to be found. The police had taken them to Chitluk, a nearby town, for questioning and a medical examination. Dr. Ante Vujovic was called in to examine the children. Dr. Vujovic speaks of his findings.
I have examined these 6 from Biakovici at length and have found them to be perfectly normal in every regard. Nothing was amiss, but it is not within my competence to make a final judgment. I refuse to become involved with the government investigation of the visions because there is much public love and support for the children. I do not want to come out of this in the public eye as an atheist or anything like that. My private conviction will remain private.
The children returned to the hill before the time of the apparition. A large crowd of people had already gathered and were waiting. As soon as the children were together, they began to sing and pray with the crowd. Soon the Virgin Mary appeared.
Praise be to Jesus.
The Queen of Peace looked lovingly at all those who had gathered. She gazed over the fields and towards Mount Križevac. Little Yakov had been given a note from Father Jozo, and now he read it to the Virgin.
Dear lady, what do you wish of our priests?
The priests should guard the faith and believe it firmly.
During the apparition, as the crowd surged in trying to get close to the visionaries and the Madonna, a young boy stepped on the Virgin's long veil. She immediately disappeared. The visionaries and the crowd began praying in hopes that she would reappear.
She's back. The Madonna is here. Dear Virgin, we are the only ones here who see you. Please prove to all of these people that you are here.
Let those who do not see believe as if they see. For blessed are those who have not seen, but believe.
But, dear lady, the people will think we are crazy. They will say that we are liars, or that we have hallucinations, or that we are on drugs.
My angels, there has always been injustice among people. Pay no attention to what such people say. Please have no fear. You are my angels, my dear angels. Farewell, and go in the peace of God.
The next day was Sunday, June the 28th, 1981. The sun was bright over the fields, and a cool, refreshing breeze silently swept through the valley. On this morning, only 5 days after the first apparition, over 15,000 people were present for Sunday Mass at 10:30. After Mass, Father Jozo called the 6 visionaries into the parish house and began to question them intensely about the visions and their experiences. The questioning was severe, and the children were frightened, but they repeatedly spoke the truth about what they had seen and heard. Finally, they were allowed to go home and wait for their mysterious meeting with the Virgin Mary. At 5 p.m., the 6 children made their way to the hill of the apparitions. Vitska speaks of that day.
We weren't able even to see all the people spread out on the hill. They said there were at least 15,000 of them. When we went to the site, we could hardly squeeze through. Why, if some of the men hadn't made a path for us, we simply could not have gotten through to the side.
The crowd made room for the visionaries, and they began to pray. And soon the Virgin appeared.
My lady, what do you wish of us six?
I want you to have faith and to have respect for me.
My lady, what do you wish of our priests?
I want them to have a firm faith.
Dear lady, why don't you appear in the church so that everybody can see you?
Blessed are they who do not see, but believe.
My lady, will you come to us again?
I will, at the same place.
Dear lady, do you prefer that we pray or that we sing?
I like both, sing and pray.
Dear lady, what do you wish of the people gathered here?
At this point, the Virgin looked at all of the people and smiled.
Let these people who do not see me believe the same as the 6 of you who do see me.
My lady, will you leave us some sign here on earth so that we can convince the people that we are not liars, that we are not lying, that we are not using you?
My angels, my dear angels, go in God's peace.
The next day, Monday, was a busy day for the 6 young visionaries. Beside being descended upon by the crowds coming into their village, they were also taken to Chitluk and Mostar, nearby towns, for psychiatric examinations. It was expected that they would be declared mentally ill or hallucinatory, but after thorough and, for what seemed like to the children, unending examinations, each was found to be perfectly normal, perfectly healthy. They were returned to their homes in the early afternoon and eagerly awaited their evening visit with the Mother of God. The crowd which had gathered on the hill was larger than ever, and once again the 6 children had to be helped to the site by the men of the village. Once they had arrived, they knelt and began to pray, and the Virgin appeared.
Praise to Jesus.
Forever, amen. My dear lady, are you pleased? Are you happy at the size of the crowd here today?
The Virgin Mary smiled beautifully as she gazed at the people on the hillside, and then looked beyond the fields to the church, and then to Križevac.
My dear Gospa, how long will you appear to us?
Are you bored with me so soon?
No.
I will remain with you as long as you wish, my angels.
Will you leave us a sign?
I will come again tomorrow.
Dear lady, what do you desire that these people do?
I desire that they know there is only one God and one faith. Tell them to believe firmly.
Dear Blessed Lady, some are punishing us because we see you. Will we be able to endure all of this suffering?
You will, my dear angels. Do not be afraid. You will endure it all.
With the children that day was Dr. Darinka Glamuzina, who had asked through the children if she could touch
Dear
the Virgin.
lady, could this lady touch you?
There have always been unfaithful Judases. Let her come.
The lady touched the Virgin, and the Virgin immediately disappeared. The doctor quickly stepped back and later described a tingling, electric feeling that had gone through her hand the moment she touched the Madonna. The children began singing with the people, and the Virgin Mary soon reappeared.
Dear Virgin, here is a boy. Here he is. His name is Daniel. He is not well. He can't speak. He looks half dead. Will this little boy ever be able to speak? Please make a miracle so that everyone will believe us. These people love you very much. Dear Madonna, make one miracle.
The Blessed Mother looked at the
Dear
boy.
Madonna, please.
She looked at him ever so tenderly and at length. Finally she spoke.
Let Daniel's parents pray and fast and firmly believe that he will be healed.
The Virgin smiled and looked heavenward for a moment.
Pray to Jesus. I am his mother, and I will intercede with him, and I will pray for you. But say all your prayers to Jesus. I will help you pray, but the strength of your prayer is more important. If you ask me, I will pray for you. Now, go in the peace of God.
On the way home from the Mountain of Apparitions that night, Daniel's parents stopped at a small cafe to eat. They sat Daniel at the table as they always had done and tried to get him to eat and drink, but as usual, he didn't respond. Part ways through their meal, though, something remarkable happened. Daniel Setka, the deaf and dumb child from the village of Podgorje, Yugoslavia, slammed his hand on the table and announced to his parents, "I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty." Within 2 months, little Daniel was completely cured. His parents had listened and responded to what the Virgin had urged. Pray and fast and firmly believe that he will be healed. Tuesday, June the 30th, 1981, dawned beautiful, clear and sunny. And although the miraculous events in this remote village were scarcely 1 week old, the government officials were very concerned by the size of the crowds assembling on Podbrdo. The socialist government of Yugoslavia allows freedom of worship within the confines of church property, but sees other gatherings as unwarranted and possibly political in nature, and therefore to be discouraged. So, on the morning of the 7th day of the apparition, 2 female social workers drove into Medjugorje to pick up the visionaries. The 2 girls convinced all except Ivan to go with them, and then took the visionaries on a day-long excursion to the surrounding towns and villages. They did some window shopping in Podčetelje, then had a snack in Čapljina, and then went to Kravica, a nearby waterfall. Meanwhile, several thousand people had gathered on the hill of the apparitions, but as the 2 social workers knew well, this day there would be no visionaries present on the hill, and therefore this day there would be no visions. The crowd would be disenchanted and upset with the children, and the seers themselves would indeed understand that they had only been hallucinating. At 6 o'clock in the evening, as the time for the apparition approached, the 2 girls were driving the visionaries through the town of Crno, some 10 miles from Medjugorje. In the distance, across the valley, the children could see Podbrdo and the large crowd gathered at the apparition site. They pleaded with the girls to stop the car, but their pleas were ignored. Finally, the seers threatened to jump from the moving car, and the driver stopped. The 5 visionaries walked to the side of the road and faced the distant hill of Podbrdo.
We could see Podbrdo and the people around from there, and when we began to pray, something cloud-like and shining hovered above the people there. We could immediately see that it was the Virgin. We saw her clearly. She was floating in the air. Her garments were swaying, floating it seemed toward us. It was beautiful. It can't be described.
The 2 social workers witnessed the light on Podbrdo and watched in amazement as it traveled across the valley and stopped in front of them. They saw the light, but they did not see the Virgin. The children knelt as the Virgin Mary approached.
Praise be to Jesus, my dear angels.
Now and forever.
Dear Blessed Lady, are you displeased that we are not on the hill at the regular place?
No, I do not mind.
Do you mind if we do not go to the hill anymore? Will you appear to us in the church?
The lady looked a bit undecided for a moment, and then answered,
Do not worry, my angels. All will be well.
The children conversed and sang with the Virgin Mary for several minutes by the side of the road, as the 2 social workers watched the spectacle in amazement. The Virgin said, "Go in God's peace," and again slowly floated across the valley toward Podbrdo. She descended upon the people waiting there, bathing them in a beautiful light, and then disappeared. The 2 girls drove the children home. The next day, the social workers resigned their government jobs. The government then decided to intervene directly. On Wednesday, July the 1st, they sent the police to Biakovici to get the children. They threatened the parents and the friends of the visionaries unless the children were turned over to them. But the parents defended the integrity and the decision of their children, and the villagers responded to the questions of the police in ways which served only to confuse them. When asked, "Where are those children right now?" the villagers responded,
Those children are at Marinkos.
They are in the village. At Ivankas.
At Mirjanas.
They are at Yakov's.
In the fields.
They went on the hill.
Meanwhile, the young visionaries had run into the fields and were getting further and further away from the village of Biakovici and the hill of the apparitions. Behind them and relentless were the police, chasing them in cars and on foot. Before them, through the vineyards, was their only remaining hope of safety, the Church of St. James. Inside the church, a priest sat alone in the front pew. Father Jozo Zovko read his Bible and breviary, and then lifted his eyes and heart to God.
My God, I feel like Moses before the Red Sea. I need to speak to you directly. All these people are here on the hill and in the fields. They are asking me questions, and I don't know what to say to them. God, I know you talked to Abraham and to Moses and to others. Now there are thousands of people here these days, and it's like a river. Please tell me where this river is going. I do not know where the mouth of that river is, nor what its source is. My God, please help me.
Though the church was empty except for Father Jozo, something remarkable happened. While he was praying, he heard an audible voice which rang throughout the church and, according to Father Jozo Zovko, throughout his entire life.
Go outside and protect the children. Then I will tell you what you should do.
Father Jozo immediately put down his Bible and breviary, genuflected, and walked to the front doors of the church. As he opened the door, the young visionaries were running from the fields around the left side of the church. They were frightened and ran to him, crying and begging for protection from the police. Father Jozo took the children across the way to the rectory and locked them in an unoccupied room. He walked outside again to find the police running from the direction of the church. The police called to the priest. Father Jozo looked towards the village of Biakovici, and the police immediately ran off in that direction. He went back inside and told the children they were safe and not to worry. Later, the Madonna came to console them in that room. Father Jozo, aware that thousands of pilgrims were milling through the streets of the villages and on the hill, decided that they should all be participants in the supernatural events there, not merely spectators. He thus got word to them that the rosary would be prayed in the Church of St. James at 5 p.m. and that the holy sacrifice of the Mass would be offered at 6. Father Jozo spoke of this first evening Mass.
There is nothing to which I could compare the number of people in the church. It was so crowded that I found it impossible to extend my hands and say, "The Lord be with you."
In his homily, Father Jozo asked the people to pray and to fast, begging God to help them better understand the events in their parish. The people responded, "We will." Thus, the events which began on the hill had to some degree come into the safety of the church. Nonetheless, because of the size of the crowds, the Virgin still appeared on the hillside to the children. On the evening of July the 14th, something strange and wonderful happened on Podbordo. At 11 p.m., the seers were called to the apparition site. About 40 people followed. As they began to pray, the heavens seemed to open. A great light shone, and a shining golden sphere, visible to all, gently descended on the crowd. Just before the beautiful sphere reached the ground, it burst into 1,000 star-like pieces, showering the people with its glittering, shimmering beauty. The people knelt and prayed and cried. The visionaries announced that the Virgin Mary was among them, and that all who desired could come forward and touch her. Vicka spoke of that night.
We prayed and wept at the same time. It seemed but a moment, but they said it lasted 40 minutes. When the Virgin departed, we arose and sang a bit and talked a bit and slowly went home. No one knows what all we experienced. All of us who were on the hill that beautiful night. Only God and the Virgin know. You could never see. You could never imagine how beautiful it was.
A few days later, high above the cross on Mount Križevac, written in the sky with gleaming lights, the letters M-I-R appeared. Mir, the Croatian word for peace. This was visible to all in the surrounding villages. The next day, as some of the priests were coming out of the rectory, they noticed the villagers in the fields and the pilgrims near the church all kneeling. The rectory, they noticed the villagers in the fields and the pilgrims near the church all kneeling, facing Mount Križevac. The giant cross atop the mountain was not visible. In its place stood a beautiful lady made of light, her arms outstretched towards the villages and the parish church below. The lady stood there for more than 15 minutes. Then she disappeared, and once again the cross was visible. That night the visionaries asked the Madonna about the vision on Križevac. "It was I," she answered. "It was I, your loving mother." Then the Virgin Mary told the children that she prays every day at the foot of the cross. She prays for her Son to forgive the sins of the world. Sometimes she's visible there on Mount Križevac, and pilgrims and villagers alike get a glimpse of the lovely Queen of Peace from heaven. The miraculous signs and wonders, the proofs to those who had doubt, convinced all in the parish of St. James in Medjugorje, Yugoslavia, that something miraculous, something wonderful sent from God was happening in their midst. Finally, on August the 12th, 1981, the police declared Podbordo off limits to everyone and posted guards to keep people away. Even so, the children went to the hill for the apparition. Eventually, though, because of the danger imposed by the authorities, the Madonna started appearing at the homes of the visionaries in Biakovici as the people gathered in the streets to be near. Most of the time, though, she would appear in the fields. Though deprived of the desolate, rocky hillside by state authorities, the Virgin Mary made provision, and whatever sacrifice was necessary, to be with the visionaries and the people. In the evenings, when their work was done, the villagers and pilgrims would gather in the fields to pray, to rest, and to wait for their queen. Under a setting sun, the Blessed Mother and all of her loving children would take ease. They would pray and sing together and give thanks to God, who looked with such favor on this humble, remote parish. One evening after Mass, the Virgin Mary appeared to Maria and told her to go with the other visionaries and the people to the threshing field.
Please understand, Maria, that a great battle is taking place between my son and the devil for the souls of men.
Maria told the others and took them all to the threshing field. The Madonna appeared among her children and invited all of the people who were present to touch her. One by one, the people touched the Virgin as Maria told them where she was. As the people touched her, the Blessed Mother's long white veil began to darken until it turned black. The Virgin disappeared. Maria burst into tears and cried to her friend Marinko that the Virgin was made dirty by the sins of the people who touched her. Marinko then urged everyone to go to confession the next morning to cleanse their souls from the stain of their sins. The Virgin Mary had already told the visionaries of her primary purpose for visiting the earth, to bring a message of hope and peace. Now, more and more, she began to reveal the ways to attain this hope, this peace. Peace, she said, may be attained on earth through reconciliation, conversion, prayer, and fasting. Such is the message of the Queen of Peace, sent from heaven.
I am the Queen of Peace. I have come to tell the world that God exists. He is the fullness of life. And to enjoy this fullness and obtain peace, you must return to God. So be converted while there is still time. The only words I wish to say are reconciliation, conversion, prayer, and fasting. My dear children, you must become reconciled with God and between yourselves. To do this, you must believe, pray, fast, and confess your sins. Venerate the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Make atonement for the wounds inflicted to the heart of my Son. That heart has been offended with all sorts of sin. My beloved, I am your mother, and I have come to earth to teach you how to listen out of love and how to pray out of love. Open your hearts to God like flowers in the springtime, yearning for the sun. I am your mother, and I always want you to be closer to the Father, that He will always give abundant gifts to your heart. And so I am calling you to reconciliation with God. Tell God you love Him. Dear children, with love you will achieve everything, even what you think is impossible. You have a great and heavy cross, but do not be afraid to carry it. Through the cross, God is glorified in every man. Russia will come to glorify the name of God. The West has advanced civilization, but they have lost God. They act as if they have created everything, and thus they have forgotten God. Monthly confession would cure the Western Church. Whole sections of the church could be healed if the believers went to confession once a month. I, the Mother, love you all. And in any moment when it is difficult for you, do not be afraid. I love you even when you are far away from me and my Son. I ask you not to allow my heart to cry with tears of blood because of the souls who are being lost in sin. Promise, my dear children, that you will not offend Jesus and that you will not insult him nor the cross. My beloved son, please forgive these numerous serious sins with which humanity offends you. Oh, my dear children on earth, tell the world not to wait any longer. It needs to convert. When God comes, he will not be joking. I tell you that you must take my messages seriously. Many people have begun their conversion, but not all. Convert before it is too late. While there is still time, do not wait for the sign. Yes, I will leave a sign on the hill. It will be a sign of proof for those who do not believe that I am here. It will be very beautiful and indestructible and permanent. It will be a source of many conversions and healings and miracles. But do not wait for the sign. The sign will come too late for those who do not believe. The only word I want to say is conversion. I ask for nothing but the conversion of the whole world. I will suffer for you, but you must convert yourselves. I beg my son not to punish you. You do not understand what God's plans are, and you do not know what God will send and cause to happen. I ask nothing but conversion. That is what I want. That is all I want to say. Give up everything. Do not be so preoccupied about the material things of the world. In the material, you lose everything that God wants to give you. I am inviting you, my dear children, to pray for the gifts of the Holy Spirit that you need now. My dear children, abandon yourselves to me so that I can lead you totally. When you are in difficulty or need anything, come to me. Consecrate yourselves to the Immaculate Heart. Abandon yourselves completely, and I will protect you. I will pray to the Holy Spirit, and you must pray as well. In prayer, you will come to know the greatest joy and the way out of every situation that has no way out. Do not worry. Let peace reunite your hearts. Troubles come only from Satan. He is trying to turn you off course. Those who have given themselves to God will be the objects of his attacks. Satan is trying to destroy the church. He presented himself before the throne of God and requested permission to put the church on trial during a period of 1 century. God permitted Satan to try the church for a century. This century is under the powers of the devil. But when these secrets are realized, which are being confided to the visionaries here in Medjugorje, his power will be destroyed. He has already begun to lose his power, and he has become aggressive. He destroys marriages, creates division between priests, and causes obsessions and murders. You should protect yourselves from these things by fasting and prayer, especially by community prayer. Carry blessed objects with you and keep them in your houses. Come back to the custom of using holy water. Dear children, I beg you to listen and to live your mother's call. I am calling you because of my love, so that I can help you. So I am begging you to put more blessed objects in your homes and to carry blessed objects on yourself. Let everything be blessed, so that Satan will tempt you less because you are armed against him. I ask all my children to pray the rosary. With the rosary, you will overcome all the troubles which Satan is trying to inflict on the Catholic Church. Satan watches for every individual. He particularly wants to bring confusion to each one of you. But I am calling you to pray against Satan in a special way. Satan wants to work more now that you know he is active. My dear children, dress up in clothes of armor against Satan. With rosaries in your hands, you will conquer. Pray, pray always. Again, I invite you to prayer of the heart. If you pray from your heart, dear children, the ice-cold hearts of your brothers will be melted, and every barrier will disappear. Conversion will be easily achieved by those who want it. Help others to be converted, especially those who are coming to Medjugorje. Dear children, my dear children, do not allow Satan to reign in your hearts. Do not be an image of Satan, but be my image. God gave everyone free will, and it is up to you to decide. Satan is working even more violently to take joy from each of you. Through prayer, you will totally disarm him and ensure your happiness. I desire you to be the reflections of Jesus, who enlightens an unfaithful world which is walking in darkness. Witness to the light. You are not called to darkness, my dear children. You are called to light. So live the light in your lives. My dear ones, you must pray more. I, as your mother, say that you pray too little. Pray for the conversion of sinners, because the world is in great sin. Pray the rosary every evening. Read the Bible every day in your home. Let it be in a visible place, so that it always encourages you to read and pray. Meditate especially on the 6th chapter of St. Matthew, verses 24 through 34. They speak of total abandonment to God. When you pray, dear children, you become more beautiful. You become like flowers which after the snow show forth their beauty and whose colors become indescribable. And so, dear ones, pray and open your inner selves to the Lord, so that he may make of you a harmonious and beautiful flower for heaven. Some Christians are no longer believers because they do not pray, and faith cannot live without prayer. Pray the Apostles' Creed. Talk to God simply as would a child. Tell him what you need and desire, and speak to him of the situations in your day. Then pray from your heart. Pray the Creed daily to combat the atheism of the world. The Mass is the greatest prayer of God, and you will never comprehend its grandeur. That is why you ought to be perfect and humble at Mass, and why you should prepare yourself for it. Adore continually the most holy sacrament. I am always present when the faithful are in adoration. Special graces are then being received. A flower cannot grow without water. Neither can you grow without God's blessings. You should pray for blessings from day to day so that you can grow up normally and carry out your activities with God. And pray that God's blessings may protect every one of you from all the evil that is threatening you. I am calling you to prayer of the heart. Let prayer, my dear ones, be your everyday food. In a special way, now when your work is exhausting you, you cannot pray with your heart. Pray, and then you will overcome every tiredness. Prayer will be your happiness and rest. Pray for the Holy Spirit to come down upon you. When you have the Holy Spirit, you have everything. My dear, dear children, the world has forgotten the value of prayer and fasting. With prayer and fasting, wars could be stopped and natural laws suspended. The best form of fasting is on bread and water. If you are not able to fast on bread and water, then you can give up other things. It would be very good to give up television because it wastes your time, and after watching the programs, you are distracted and unable to pray. You can renounce alcohol, cigarettes, and other pleasures. You know yourselves what you must do. Only the seriously ill are free from fasting. Fasting cannot be replaced by prayers and almsgiving, except by those who are very ill. You should pray and fast on behalf of the sick. It is easy for God to heal the sick, but it is not easy for man. Listen to what I say. With prayer and fasting, you can stop wars and suspend natural laws. Think of it, my children. Think of it. I ask you to start fasting from your heart. There are many people who fast, but only because everyone else is fasting. It has become a custom which no one wants to stop. My dear children, fast and pray with your heart. And always pray before and after your work. If you do that, God will bless you and your work. You usually work too much and pray too little. Be humble, my children. Live in humility. You are ready to put yourselves in the hands of Satan because you are not reflecting on your actions. I invite each one of you to consciously decide yourself to be for God and against Satan. I am your mother, and I therefore want to lead you all toward perfect holiness. I want every one of you to be happy here on earth, and for every one of you to be with me in heaven. This is, my dear, dear children, my desire and my mission here. In your life, my dear ones, you have experienced light and darkness. God gives to each person knowledge of good and evil. I am calling you to the light which you have to carry to all people who are in darkness. From day to day, people who are in darkness come upon your path. Give them, dear children, the light.
It is sunrise in Medjugorje. From behind the hill of apparitions, lights and colors slowly fill the sky. The mist, which has covered the fields all night long, rises and fades away. Slowly the new day breaks forth as the villagers and pilgrims arise from their slumber refreshed. Their faith has been rekindled and has inspired in their hearts a new hope and love. For in their midst, in their village, dwells Mary, the Mother of God.
Who is she who comes up like the rising morn, fair as the moon, brilliant as the sun, as the rainbow when it glistens amidst the clouds of glory, and as the rose blossoms in the time of spring? The flowers have appeared in our land. The time of pruning is come. Alleluia.
I love you, my dear, dear children, with a special love, and I want to bring you to heaven with God. I want you to comprehend that this life is very short in comparison with that in heaven. I am grateful to my Lord for all He is giving me, especially for this gift of being with you. These are the days in which the Father is giving special graces to all who open their hearts. I am blessing you. My heart follows all your steps attentively, my dear ones. I am your loving mother. And if you knew how much I truly love each one of you, you would weep for joy.